My opponent states a lot about Monsanto being a corporation that basically controls GMOs. But in a sense, if you do that, you could basically essentially say that about nearly all corporations are giant and have some sort of presence in the government. For instance, a professor of agriculture and resource economics at Berkeley states that, what about Monsanto? This corporation has a monopoly on crucial patents and has made a lot of money from GMOs. This is undisputed. However, study shows that economic gains from GMOs were divided among consumers, farmers, and seed manufacturers without anyone getting the lion's share. He compares this to Apple also making a large amount of money, but no one complains about it. Of course, there is room for increasing access to intellectual property, but especially these products that are also of value to the poor. But labeling GMO is not the optimal way to achieve this goal. What this says is that Monsanto is being targeted just because they make a bunch of money. But what they fail to realize is that the money that Monsanto makes is distributed to various parts of things. They do give to the poor. For example, they do help research in third world countries to make crops that are more sustainable for their climates. What my opponent also says is that there are bizarre results of crops that they have used, but in many of these cases, they're more scientific experiments and aren't actually released to the public. As for GMOs, they can essentially provide essential nutrients to combat illnesses. A study done had one of the crops that have been created is that it's called golden rice, which contains a large amount of vitamin A and is helped to combat blindness. And this is a large problem in third countries and not just the USA. So this crop could be used for the US and many other places where vitamin A is issued. In the US so far, there are a lot of diet-related diseases, such as diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and colon cancer. And there have been modified foods that GMO have been used to create that help reduce the enormous expenditures on therapeutic medicine. For example, a starch component of wheat, rice, and mazi has a lower glycemic index. So this would help diabetes in general. And well, with this crop helping diabetics, it would also help decrease the cost of medicine for them too. There have been research done on GMO tomatoes that have been shown to keep cancer at bay. In a study done, the results of it stated that a diet consisting of modified purple tomatoes extended the lifespan of these mice to an average of 82 days, 182 days. And some even live up to 260 days, while regular tomatoes had no effect. However, my opponent also stated about a study done on GM tomatoes on rats. However, the study that was done showed really no. There was another study done on GM tomatoes that showed really no benefits on both regular tomatoes and GM tomatoes. So basically, the rumors of it causing tumors on the rats weren't really duplicated in another study about GMO tomatoes. Also, there was a GM corn study done on rats too. However, in this study, the study used a specific kind of rats that were more prone to tumors. As a result of this, the study was flawed from the beginning. The biggest criticism of this study was that his team only used 10 rats of each sex in the study. And a lot of people didn't like this because it did not give a good result of what of GM corn and GM corns on rats. So the results weren't really acceptable because it didn't have the specific guidance of what a study should actually do. However, the results actually contradicted the hypothesis. Rats that were fed the highest levels of GM corn lived longer than the rats fed the lowest level. So what this means is that the rats that were fed higher levels of GM corn actually lived longer, and they did not develop tumors. However, what was bad about this study too was that they required reporters to sign a pen agreement saying that they would not talk about it to any other scientists before the study was finished. The study was announced. For example, an article on Nature.com stated that only a select group of journalists was given access to the embarked paper, and each writer required to sign a highly unusual confidentiality agreement, which prevented them from discussing the paper with other scientists before the embargo expired. What this means that the people that made the study were basically essentially in control of what came out of it and what didn't. So there was no other study done that basically tried to replicate it or tried to denounce it. So in a sense, right now there are no actual tests that basically really truly says whether GMOs are bad or good. Because in many of these tests, in many of these tests, the diagnostic methods to do it aren't really efficient or inadequate for it. For example, an article about genetic modified foods testing states that currently toxicity in food is tested by chemical analysis of macro/micronutrients and known toxins. To rely solely on this method is at best inadequate and worse, dangerous. Better diagnostic methods are needed, such as MRA, fingerprinting. However, consuming even at minor constituents with high biological activity may have major effects on the gut and body's metabolism, which can only be relevant from animal studies because no human study has been done so far. And in many of these animal studies, they give the animals more than necessary, and it's higher than even the amounts given to humans.